So is Wednesday racist? I think the most important first question is actually, what is racism? So is it something systemic or systematic? Is it something that we're talking about institutionalized discrimination? Is that what it is? Because if that's what it is, then oftentimes we are using the wrong words.
What is it about the Negro? I mean, every other group that came as an immigrant somehow, not easily, but somehow got around it. Is it just the fact that Negroes are black?
White America must see that no other ethnic group has been a slave on American soil. That is one thing that other immigrant groups haven't had to face.
So is Wednesday, for example, blocking me from access to credit, blocking me from access to education, blocking me from access to a better job, blocking me from access to a business loan, blocking me from access to a mortgage? Probably not. So this is usually what Jenny looks like every day in her everyday life. So the interesting thing is that I hear a lot of people talking about how potentially Wednesday is racist and that there are anti-black overtones in the show. So real talk off the bat, as a side note, the main actress, despite the fact that she appears like a white person in the show, it doesn't really matter what she considers herself, phenotypically is not a white person. So first of all, I just want to say that she's obviously a mixed race Latina. Does she identify as white? How does she fill out the census? I don't really care. That's why I included a picture of her without the makeup on. You be the judge. She's not wholesale a quote-unquote white Hispanic person. So talking about the black villains, to be quite honest, I actually like the black villains. I think the kids who played the black villains did a great job. I don't have a problem with black people being villains. They didn't have the black villains in this series, like, for example, speaking Ebonics or acting out in many stereotypical ways. They had the black bullies were just bullies. If we're going to do diversity, and we're doing diversity in Wednesday, then to be honest, sometimes black people are going to be the bad guys. I'm not giving Tim Burton a pass. I'm not even really going to get into the history of some of his other flicks because I don't really want to, and because even just around Wednesday, we got a lot to talk about. An added thing that I really want to say that comes up pretty much every single episode, and at least in the first three, is that the whole genocidal aspect of how the 50 contiguous states were obtained. So the problem is that you have Wednesday Addams, saying all this quote-unquote progressive stuff, and a lot of times now we'll just say it's woke, but saying stuff that for our understanding is actually factual around the genocide of the Aboriginal people. She's consistently saying that. So to say that she's saying that and then the show is completely racist, it's kind of a tough sell. I think there's actually more of a case of potentially that a lot of Wednesday's behavior kind of emasculates some of the men or the young men in the series. If you wanted to talk about that, maybe there's an argument for that. And I mention that because at times the quote-unquote anti-patriarchy speeches that Wednesday has, I find them kind of like unnecessary, except the fact that the way it's written, I kind of feel like a lot of it is satire. So another quick note about Jenny Ortega's appearance. She just really looks like an average, really Puerto Rican kid, really. So here's the problem. If you want to have a diverse cast and you want to have black actors acting, then they're not always going to be the good guys. That's not going to happen. If you need them to be the good guys, no offense, then you really need to direct and script and write and create your own movies. And then I'll also add the idea that every single like black person, that their heart is as white as snow. This is just not truthful. It's not realistic. And so getting into the series specifically, so okay, you have two black kids that really don't like Wednesday, but getting really at the series, you have really most of the kids in two schools, and most of those kids are white. They don't like Wednesday. They don't like her family. They like nothing about her. So I don't know. So you have really essentially like the quote unquote black bully boy is really like a Chad, right? And then you have the quote unquote black bully girl is the head of the Mean Girls. I don't know. So a quick segue is Wednesday has a lot of satire, and they sort of have like a shout out to Carrie in the same way that they're making fun of Carrie, but at the same time they have a lot of dark concepts. So the part of maybe the Wednesday series that people, I guess, could find problematic, and I think, truthfully, I found a little bit problematic, is the whole, her mother is a single mother. So Bianca's mother is a single mother, and then Bianca conned her way into school. And then her mother is sort of like, I don't know, a shiesty person. So I could say that relationship, which is 100% a toxic relationship, I can get why that would really trigger a lot of people. So even with what I said, I can say specifically the dynamic of Bianca and her mother, for many people that would be problematic, and that might seem like that's just a sort of like black stereotype, the single mother, and then maybe the quote-unquote brazen black woman, selfish black woman kind of thing. So I can see that aspect of the Bianca character, that triggered a lot of people hard. And I think that a lot of the backlash from quote-unquote black Twitter, or some of the backlash from quote-unquote black Twitter, would probably be around Bianca and her mother's relationship, which is toxic AF. Okay, so all the black people in the show are of really dubious morality. Okay. But here's the problem. The main character is not a good person. The main character is really not a good person. So the black characters in the show are of dubious morality, but really, who are the good characters, really? The good characters are maybe like her roommate. The good characters are the Hummer kid. But most of the characters, either normal or from Nevermore, are not really good people. None of them are good people. And some of them are murderers. So if you really want to have issues with Wednesday, I think you could have issues with Wednesday fundamentally because maybe you don't like the whole kind of occult nature of magic and the use of magic and the promotion of that kind of thing. That might be a conversation where I would think that maybe people would have a stronger leg to stand on. But the actuality, or really the idea that this particular show for most of the season, or even was constructed with specifically racist overtones, is not really, I wouldn't say, I don't know, I'm struggling to find the word. It's not that it's not germane, it's just that I didn't really see that. The stuff that I saw, I mentioned in the video, but I really didn't necessarily see this overt racial overtones in this actual series. I didn't see that. What I did see was, a series which was pretty much a lot of satire consistently, and that was in the writing. That I picked up on, that it was just like a satire. In fact, most of what I got is that it was satire of where we're at in society. The whole thing was satire. And it was cutting sort of like both ways. And it was sort of like a bunch of different writers who may be quote unquote liberal, but they were able to kind of satirize themselves. And that's really what I saw in terms of Wednesday. I didn't really see any overt anti-black racism. I didn't see that.
You just got a Nobel Peace Prize, an Uncle Tom. Is this correct, first?
Well, I'd rather say that in the States, there's a law that has recently been passed, or a decision handed down by the court, wherein if you call someone an Uncle Tom, they can sue you for libel.
Well,
so I never refer to them as Uncle Toms. I would say that Uncle Martin is my
particular series. Is the series racist? Up until now, I would say no. From most of the episodes I've seen, I would say no. But then a deeper issue is, if it is, then so what? What do you do about that? Let's say it were. Let's say even Tim Burton were a racist. Okay, so what do you do then? I mean, you can actually just create your own content. And I'm not saying that to be flippant, but if you really want to have quote-unquote characters seen a certain way, you actually have to create that yourself. So looking to really like Hollywood or mainstream to really kind of like represent you quote-unquote adequately or appropriately in a series that originally really had nothing to do with, for example, black people, I don't know, it's kind of a stretch, isn't it?
What the black man in America needs to completely eliminate the problem that we have, I would say well and good. But I very much doubt that anyone who adopts the approach that Martin Luther King has been teaching to our people in that country can point to any meaningful gains that has actually served to solve the problem.
So I think the main problem with this whole quote-unquote controversy, and then many of the controversies in general, is something that I've often heard Earl Nightingale quote on this particular video where he talks about goal setting. And I think he's quoting Albert Schweitzer, who says that the problem is that men don't think. So when they say men don't think, I think it's the whole idea of like people don't think critically. Like people jump to conclusions. So if you got this far and you liked it, give me a like. You want, give me a super thanks. Thanks so much for watching. I'm out.